this video, I'm going to show you the difference between absolute and relative change. We're going to talk about how to find each of those and how to solve application problems involving them. So in the first example, the value of a car dropped from $7,400 to $6,800 over the last year. What percent decrease is this? So let's first talk about the change that's happening here. There's an absolute change and there's a relative change. The absolute change is how much it actually changed, in this example in dollars. So the absolute change is found by simply subtracting. It's finding the difference. So that would be 7,400 minus 6,800. And we would see that that is $600. So that is the absolute change. It's how much it actually changes in the units it's given in. The relative change is how much it changes relative to how much it started with. So the relative change is usually looked at as a percentage. It's how much it changed in relation to where it started. So your formula to find relative change is given at the top. Relative change is equal to absolute change divided by the original amount. It's key that you use your original amount, because if you don't, you would get the wrong relative change. So in this case, our relative change is going to be the absolute change, so the dollar amount that it changed, that's 600, over the original amount. So the original amount was $7,400. And so you divide that. So 600 divided by 7,400, you would get 0.0811 rounded up to the nearest 4 decimal places. So absolute change is just a difference. Relative change is a ratio. What percent decrease is this? So the percent decrease is associated with the relative change. So you would change the 0.0811 to a percent by multiplying by 100. So you would say it's an 8.11% decrease. Okay, number 2. The U.S. federal debt at the end of 2001 was $5.77 trillion and then grew to $6.2 trillion by the end of 2002. At the end of 2005, it was $7.91 trillion and then grew to $8.45 by the end of 2006. Calculate the absolute and relative increase for the 2 different years. Which year saw a larger increase in federal debt? All right, so let's just go ahead and split this screen here so we can calculate each of them. So on the left, let's look at from 2001 to 2002. Okay, so first we want to find the absolute change. So how much did it actually change in dollars? So we have 6.2 trillion minus 5.77. So 6.2 minus 5.77, I got 0.43. So you would say the absolute change is $0.43 trillion. So that's the absolute change. And it is an increase because it went from 5.77 to 6.2. Now the relative change is going to be the absolute change over the original amount. So the absolute change is 0.43, and the original amount was 5.77. So let's see, when I put that in my calculator, I get 0.0745. And if you want to change it to a percentage, you can say 7.45%. So it increased, the debt increased by 7.45%. So that's the relative change. So again, hopefully this is helping you see the difference between the two. The absolute change is just a subtraction, it's a difference, and it's still in the same units as your original information was in. But the relative change is a percentage increase or a percentage decrease. Okay, now let's look at 2005 to 2006. First, we want to find the absolute change. So the absolute change, I'm just going to find the difference. So 8.45 minus 7.91. 8.45 minus 7.91. When I did that, I got 0.54. So it increased by $0.54 trillion. And now I want to find the relative change. So the relative change is the absolute change, which is 0.54, over the original amount. So the original amount would be the amount of debt in 2005, and that's 7.91. So 0.54 divided by 7.91, and we would get 0.0683. So as a percentage, that would be 6.83%. So you could say the debt increased by 6.83%. So the question asked which year saw a larger increase in federal debt. So if you look at absolute change, 0.54 is larger than 0.43. So if you're thinking about absolute change, you could say, oh, this year, between 2005 and 2006, we had a larger increase in federal debt. But someone else could argue, by looking at the relative change, that it was actually 2001 to 2002, because percentage, 7.45%, is larger than 6.83%. So considering where you started from, taking that into account, you can say, yeah, dollar-wise, we went up more from 2005 to 2006, but we didn't raise it by as much considering where we started. So that's the difference between absolute change and relative change.